Hi to everyone. We are in Casa Padel, the very famous club in Paris, and with us, Iñaki Cabrera. You know him, of course, because he is the guy's baroon paddle Wilson in the world. Hi, Iñaki.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon to everyone. We have many questions for you because we see Wilson everywhere in this club. We will start by Casa Padel. It's a special day today because Wilson and Casa Padel is like one.
Exactly, and we are very excited to start this partnership with Casa Padel, and especially we feel here how these guys passionate about paddle, and this is exactly what we need to make this sport a global sport.
We know there is many people want to work with Wilson Padel, and maybe why did you choose Casa Padel?
I think it's everything starts with people, right? And from the beginning on, our French team, especially here in Paris, led by Richard, they got a really good feeling about the Casa Padel founders, and especially their vision about the sport and how they want to develop the sport in Paris and overall France.
Casa Padel will be alone in France or in the world, or do you have other views about an association with clubs like here?
We have a clear strategy on Wilson and especially in Padel. Yeah. And part of this strategy is to create a strategic partnership with partners like Casa Padel worldwide, and this is what we are doing today.
Can you give us a few statistics, a few things around this development of the paddle? Because we talk a lot about this sport, but finally, for example, we talk a lot about the crisis since 2 years, but in the same times, we can see Wilson Padel like that. So how can you illustrate this situation?
I think it's a combination of many factors, and sometimes it's tough to explain people that, especially in 2020, tough year for everyone, and also 2021, we exceed by far our expectations in overall racket sports, but especially in paddle. And this is mainly of everyone who plays this sport immediately fell in love. And in many countries in the world, the number of players is booming. It's booming. Yeah. And also from the investment point of view, it's a really good opportunity in this crisis period, where you can find a business stream or a new business revenue, and especially if you are passionate about the sport, Padel is great.
Could we say we had before the crisis, we will get a new development thanks to the crisis? Is sad, of course, but in the same times, like you said, it's maybe what we need around the paddle to see what we are.
What I can say is that the future of paddle after the crisis or the COVID is bright, is great, and this is mainly driven because even in some countries we see a boom. We see building courts everywhere. We see friends, families playing paddle. Yeah. This will not stop. This will not stop in the sense that it's starting in Europe, and I can give you one number. So until 2019, most of the sporting goods business in the paddle industry it used to come from Spain, because Spain is a mature market with a higher number of players, higher number of facilities. But today, by the end of 2020, in a COVID year, 65% of the total sales come from European countries and not Spain.
So today, since 1 year, you sell more rackets in Europe than in Spain.
By far. And it's not an isolated case of Wilson. Overall industry is selling more international sales versus national sales in Spain. And this is great because it's one of the main objectives of the paddle industry is to develop the sport outside of Spain, which is the case today. And now, led by some sport governing association like the FIB, I think that the paddle will become international sport and global sport very soon. And I can tell you also in the US, which is a tough market.
In general, so to resume the situation, until 1-2 years ago, you sell most of your products, Wilson products around the paddle in Spain. But since 1-2 years, most of your products are selling outside.
Indeed, just to put in a perspective, Spain is a country of 45 million citizens, population, and Sweden is a country of 10 million. Today, Sweden is by far our biggest country in paddle. And also today, and it's interesting to see that at the end of 2020 and after Q1 2021, today in Sweden there are more paddle players than tennis players.
We write a paper about that a few months. I don't know if you watch this paper, but we mention this situation in Sweden. It's amazing, and we can see too many countries not like that, but we are coming. we are coming. Last question, maybe. We talk about France. We talk about Sweden. In general. For you, what do you expect? What do you expect about the paddle? Do you see maybe do you see the number of sailing multiplied by 3, multiplied by 4? What is the perspective about that?
What I can tell you is that from Wilson point of view, and this is one of the reasons why we entered in the partnership with Vela, with Fernando Velasteguin, is that we want to boost paddle and become paddle sport a global sport by 2025. Okay. And saying that, if you will ask me, I will tell you that in less than 10 years, paddle industry will be at least half of the tennis industry today, which is a lot.
So in few years, you think paddle will be first front of the tennis in Wilson in general, and maybe in general. Do you think paddle will be more interesting for brand than the tennis, for example?
I wouldn't say that, but just put in a perspective that we are talking about a sport with 100 years, more than 100 years, like tennis. And we are talking about a very young sport in many countries. Yes. And saying that in 10 years, paddle can represent 50% of tennis today is a huge growth in such short time. So that's my forecast, and especially it will depend the size of this growth of, for me, 2 regions. Let's say 2 markets. One is France. I think France is historically a racket sports, one of the main markets globally, and it's important that France develop paddle at the level that we expect. And I think that the French Federation is doing the right movement in this direction, and we are very happy to partnership with them on that. And then it's Germany, of course, because it's the second largest country in racket sports in Europe, and then US and China and Asia, China and Japan. So this will be, if we succeed on these markets, for sure Padel is going to be a huge industry, very relevant sport, and hopefully soon an Olympic, part of the Olympic Games.
Last question, because I have to ask you this question. You have a huge experience about the rackets in general, about the sport, and did you already see this situation in any sport, or it's unique? Little bit, this situation is unique. Did you see a sport like that with a growth amazing, or it's unique to our sport?
You know, I've been in the sport industry since a long time, more than 25 years, and I experienced similar growth with in the gliss, so with the booming of surf everywhere.
Yeah. Ah, okay, yes, yes.
And the second phenomenon like paddle today for me was running and trail running.
Running training, yes.
It was a very huge growth in a very short period, and it was driven by, you know, trail running become a new sport, and this is something important, because, you know, normally we used to consider that industries cannot evolve, and industry at the end are let's say that the market is based on some, how can I call it? It's taped, but sometimes markets can be untaped, and you can develop new business streams and opportunities. And this running was an example with trail running, and racket sports is an example today with paddle globally, and in some regions with pickleball. This is another phenomenon.
Oh, pickleball is another. Okay, we could talk about the pickleball, but in another time. But I know we saw in USA you are very strong. You are very strong over there. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that we have a very good market share in pickleball in the US. However, we see pickleball more isolated and develop in the US market, and less potential than paddle to develop at the speed that we see that paddle will develop and growth in the world.
Thank you very much, Iñaki, and maybe it's time to play, because we have a professional player in front of us, Richie. Yes, he's very professional. Maybe we could.
Ready.
Yes, you are ready?
I'm ready.
Yeah, because he has a very high level. Huh? We have to be careful. Huh?
Yes. You know, I heard that Richard is training a lot, and I don't know if he's selling a lot, but at least he's training a lot.
No, I can promise you, he said during he plays. It's amazing. Yes.
Okay. So it's multitasking.
Multitask, yes. All right, thank you very much. Bye bye.
Thank you.